Hey there, Jason again with going over the walkthroughs for Huntress CTF. This is going to be video 5. I know probably in the previous video you've heard me state that video 5 was going to be traffic, but as you can tell I've made some changes due to the fact that my Linux system has to kind of be up to date in order for it to work with Rita, because that's one of the tools that we're going to be using for that. So we kind of pushed that to the side a little bit, and we're going to go over the current 4 that's listed here for video 5. Backdoored Splunk, F12, Dumpster Fire, and Wimble. So we'll go over those for this video. Next video, I promise, will be traffic as soon as it gets up to speed. And then video 7 is probably going to be Xerion. I keep pushing that to the background because I haven't really played around with it just yet. But I plan on doing that pretty soon. And then after that, we're pretty much up to speed as of October 10th with the challenges. Obviously, every day I think 2 or 3 challenges are coming out anyways. We're supposed to be getting harder ones sometime this week. I'm hoping for those to come out pretty soon, so just bear with that. And then probably sometime in the future as well, we'll do over the lulls challenges on the bottom here. I've already solved lulls 2, and then lulls 3 will come about pretty soon, so that way we can go over that as well. So other than that, we're pretty much up to date. So let's go ahead and start with Backdoored Splunk and F12. So the reason why I'm going to do these first is because these are containers that we have to start on the CTF games back channels, so to speak. When they first came out, there were some issues with them where they were not generating correctly, I should say. And the Huntress team had to kind of do some work in the background, but they seem to work now just fine. So we're going to go ahead and start with Backdoored Splunk. If you're familiar with Splunk, you might be thinking that, oh, we're going to be looking at some aggregation of logs, but that's actually not the case right now. So let's kind of just expand this, and it is rated as a medium. It says you've probably been seeing Splunk being used for good, but have you been seeing, or sorry, you've been probably seeing Splunk being used for good, but have you seen it used for evil? So there's a note. The focus of the challenges should be on the downloadable file below. It uses the dynamic service that is started, but you must put the puzzle pieces together to retrieve the flag. The connection error to the container is part of the challenge. So interesting, all right? So we're going to go ahead. I think I've already downloaded these. Let me just make sure that they are download. They are, and I have them extracted, so we'll bring this over here. So as you can see, these are the extracted files. From my experience with Splunk, this seems to be a kind of a light version of Splunk that you can run as Windows as a server. So that's interesting that we have this here. So we're going to go ahead and start this container. So go ahead and start it. It's generate the container. Usually it's pretty quick, and they give us about 30 minutes to kind of take a look at it. So now let's go ahead and click on this link here. So we're going to go here and take a look at this, and let me make sure OBS is showing this. Yes. So error, missing or invalid authorization token. So this is missing this information in order to access this area. So what we can do is kind of take a look at F12 here, and let's go to network, right? So we can take a look at, if we refresh this real quick, we can take a look at some of the things that are called upon. So if we look at CTF games, the chat.ctf, or sorry, chal, which is probably challenge.ctf.games at the port, we can see that the request URL is here. It's a get method, status code, and then response headers, right? So what's probably missing is some type of token that needs to be submitted in order for us to access this. In my experience, generally this is kind of like in a formatting for like API. It looks like JSON formatting to me, JSON, not my actual name. So we're missing an API token in a sense, right? So there's a couple things we could do. The files that we downloaded, right, are part of the challenge as they stated. So let's go take a look at this folder here, right? And we're doing this over Windows. Technically, this could be a lot faster over Linux, and maybe we'll go over that in a second, but we're going to try to see if we can find something that looks to be a auth token, right? So let's kind of navigate here. So we have a bunch of files here. We have a manifest file, and we can open this up. So let me just open this up with Notepad. So there's a bunch of information here, probably the information of the server itself, and we could do a quick search here for auth. Let's do auth real quick. There's nothing in auth here. Make sure case is not hit. Okay, good. We can also do token. See if it's there. It's not there. All right, so let's continue forward here, and let's go back to our folder here, and let's take a look at. We look at manifest file. Let's take a look at that. Doesn't look like much. Yeah, I don't think it's in here. So let's close these two files out, right? All right. So not there. These are a bunch of icons, not there. So you can go through these files one at a time, or folders one at a time, and it doesn't seem to be working, right? So let's take a look at something called lookups, right? So there's a ton of stuff in here, right? So we're going to sort this by size, because my intuition is going to point us towards something that's slightly big, right? So we're kind of looking at this. Let's look at, because these are all 1 kilobytes. Let's look at DNS here real quick, right? Okay, nothing there. So we're going to continue forward. Audit changes, privileges, change audit and account management. So maybe it's in this one. Let's take a look at this here real quick. Nope, nothing here. Let's try the biggest one, I guess. No, these look like all error codes. So maybe we're in the wrong location, right? So let's go ahead and close this out real quick, because I don't see anything else that we could possibly use. Status 850. Let's take a look at this and see what this is. Oh, nope, it's just that. User account status, maybe? Nope. Really, really small. These 1 kilobyte files probably have nothing. Let's look at window privileges. Nothing. All right. So we've opened up enough of these to probably say that none of these files have what we're looking for. Now, again, in Linux, you could probably do this real quickly. But we're doing this kind of manually. Let's see here. Nope, those are information here. So now there's a bunch of comp files. So let's kind of take a look at this real quick, right? So we're going to go take a look at this, see if we can find something with auth in it. There's authority. There's authentication, but those are just references. All right. I don't see anything that we can use. Okay, so there's nothing in here. All right, so close this out. And this is painstaking, kind of a pain. It's a lot of pain in this because we're kind of manually searching for this stuff, right? We don't see anything that can reference that, so let's close that. Okay. Let's see here. Is there a different way? And let me just real quick making sure that nothing else is being shown here. Let's see here. All right, cool. So let me bring this back up real quick. All right. So probably not in the conf. Let's keep searching. Let's see what's in bin. Okay, so bin has a little bit different information. There's even a user account control property. So let's take a look at this real quick. There's property flags being shown here. Okay, but nothing related to auth, right? This is a huge manual way of finding your auth token, right? So I think it's actually in here somewhere. I'm going to sort it by size. And we're probably we're going to take a look at this one right here, actually, because this says site info. So let's go ahead and open this up. Okay. And we're going to do a search for auth. And there's nothing in auth. Okay, so it probably is not this. All right. Let's go back to the scripts overall. There's a couple of these NT6, so more likely there's something in here that we need to find. Nothing in there. What about NT6 health? Of this, interesting. Okay, so NT6 sounds like a domain controller. Is there anything off in here? Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Okay, so we have some sensitive information here, including a token that we could use, right? All right, so we found it. That was a very manual and hard way to do it. It could have been a lot easier through Linux using the proper grep commands. So we're going to copy this over just as so, right? So we're going to put it in a new notepad. And I'm curious of what this is. So we're going to go ahead and look at the Backdoor. Use this to authenticate with the deployed HTTP server. So funny, right? Not a real token. It's just it's a base64 token. That's pretty funny, right? So now you're probably asking, okay, so how do you use this? Well, there are a couple of ways you could do this. Kind of the go-to method if you are well versed with it is like Burp Suite. Burp Suite, you can add or remove certain things when it comes to web input and output. You know, get requests, put requests, and all that stuff. Technically, you could technically modify the headers here and submit them that way. It takes some finessing, but realistically, the real better way to do this is to do an extension called mod header, right? So if you use Chrome or Firefox, I think mod header is available on Firefox as well. But you can come here, right? So we're going to go ahead and bring this up here real quick. Mostly because I got to erase what was previously on here. So we'll close that out. Okay, we'll go back here. Alrighty. That was a Google search for something for pop-ups. Close that out. All right, let's go back here, and we're going to go ahead and click on this extension, right? So here you have kind of a profile, and the quick and dirty way you can do something is just add a mod, and you can do a request header, right? And you can give it a name and a value. So we're going to follow the same pattern here, right, that we have, right? So we have authorization equals whatever's in parentheses, right? So it's very important to make sure that you kind of understand how to copy this over. Now, probable intuition is probably like, oh, we just need this, right? Well, the authorization header, if you actually wanted to like pay attention to it, you could click on this button, and mod header actually explains that there's two inputs to it, a type and the credentials itself. So if you go back here, and go back to mod header here, right? Authorization value, and we see here there are two types. There's the type, or two inputs, the type and the token itself. So it's very important to pay attention that you need this. So you copy this over, put that in, okay? So now we have a header. It's checkmarked, and that means it's going to feed it into the browser. So all we do is we do a refresh, right? And look what comes up is a blank white screen. Now, initially, because I know I did this, I thought maybe the container was broken again. However, it's not. Always do your due diligence with this. So go back to elements, and you can see in here, right here. So like, obviously you can play around with this. It looks like it equals 0. There's a header mark right here. So we're going to go ahead and copy this element. Okay, copy elements. It's obviously base 64, so we'll just paste it straight into here. And we see that it was supposed to echo the flag, but doesn't really matter. We have the flag, and that's how you get the flag for Backdoor Splunk, right? So that was a very elongated way of trying to figure out what this header was. It was just playing around with an API token that exists, and that was kind of an explanation of why this could be used for evil. Is if you accidentally have an auth token that's not protected correctly, it could be utilized to log in the backdoor or something, such as an HTTP server hosting a Splunk instance. So we're gonna go ahead and stop this real quick. Now the other quick way we could do this, and let me just expand my beautiful face real quick while I monitor this. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up this. And we're going to clear this real quick. All right. So let me bring this back up. So here we are on my Kali Linux box real quick, and I did already download the files here. Right. The quick way to find your auth token, and there's a couple of search terms you could use, but the easiest to use is something like auth as a string, right? And the best way to do that is you use grep dash RNI. So I use RNI, so R and N, so R is recursive. So it's just going to search through all the files. And then specifically I allows you to search non-case sensitive. So I'm just going to put auth as this, right? And it's going to search for auth, regardless if it's capitalized or not. And then star for all the files in the current directory that you're in. And then I'm going to feed it to less, because there's going to be a ton of it. So if I just did this, it just loads everything, and it shows you every single mention of auth, right, including authentication. So let's narrow that down. So we're going to do less, right? And lo and behold, one of the first ones it finds is that token that you're supposed to have in the first place. So this could be immediate. It could be a few minutes to solve this challenge. So so it's pretty easy to do, not that difficult. So we're going to now go into another one that's kind of super easy to do if you know what you kind of know what you're doing. Let me refresh this real quick. Oh, the challenges are not working. Oh no. Hang on a second. I'm going to restart some of this information real quick, because there seems to be an issue here. Let's go ahead and delete this and refresh that. All right. All right, so it's back. So now we're going to go into F12 here. All right. Make sure that this is stopped. It didn't stop the last time for some reason. All right. So now we're going to use F12, right? So F12 is a warm-up, and something here says, remember when Missouri got into hacking, you got to be fast to catch this flag. I am not 100% familiar with this reference. For the life of me, I can't really remember what this means. This is interesting. It says you got to be fast, which means something's going on that you might have to modify in order for it to work. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start this container, because we have nothing else that we have to do right now. All right, so now we have a container, right? And so it's chow.ctf.games at this port. So let's go ahead and open this in here. And this says fast hands. Okay. All right. So what happens when we click on this? Oh, okay. So see on the upper right hand corner, there's a pop-up that comes up and disappears almost immediately, right? So, we're going to kind of take a look at this by using F12, right? So let's go ahead and kind of expand this. There's a bunch of elements loaded into it, including colors, and you can get real lost in this if you wanted to play around with it, but we're not going to play around with it, right? So we're going to focus on this middle portion, right? So I'm just going to go down and expand it, and see the header, and I see on click it calls something called CTF, right? So it's calling something else. So I'm going to kind of search for more stuff, and there's a script right here That's at the bottom. So I'm going to expand this, and there's the function CTF, right? And it's opening this .html file, and it's giving it some information. So it looks like it's popping up and then disappearing. So we're going to go ahead, and it opens up as a window, right? So we could go in here and we could change this, right? We could open up a new tab. We could do lots of things with this. So I'm actually just going to be the caveman way, and I'm just going to append it to here because it should load it in my browser without closing. I'm gonna hit enter, right? And it says here's my flag, but obviously the flag is blank, right? And it seems to be clickable, and you can see that I have errors being built up. It's not defined. That's fine. So we're just gonna go ahead and expand this again, because I want to see. So on click, it's still we're calling that function, but that function doesn't seem to be like defined here, and we can see here that the script tells the window to close, but because it's not a window, it can't close. So we're going to keep going here because I'm going to try to find as much as I can, and there's a hidden header in here, right? So we're going to expand this, and lo and behold, display none is set where the flag is. So pretty simplistic. It just takes some, there's multiple ways to get to this. You could try to stop the pop-up. You can change the scripting to, not pop up as a window. There's multiple things you can do, but this was kind of my old caveman way of just, I saw where it was going. I pulled that into my main browser, and then I expanded it more to kind of realize what it was. So, and that's where your flag is, and that's F12. Required a container to start. So just do your due diligence when you do this. When you're done, just stop the container. I mean, it's automatically going to stop, but do your due diligence. You don't need it running for 30 minutes, right? Don't use up resources that you don't need to. All right. So that was Backdoored Splunk and F12. Now we're going to go into dumpster fire. Now, dumpster fire is kind of an interesting one, right? This one, I was waiting for a write-up, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it right now because to kind of alleviate some of the videos that are coming in that I have to do. So we're going to go ahead and start with that. So let's go ahead and open this up. And we see that it says we found all this data in the dumpster. Can you find anything interesting in here, like any cool passwords or anything? Check it out quick before the foxes get to it. So there's some keywords in here that I paid attention to. One was foxes, sounds like Firefox. We found all this data in the dumpster. So typically this tells me that it's data that people don't really pay attention to, like metadata. So it could be app data. But if it's mentioning this and this type of data, I'm assuming we're going to look through browser history, right? So we could download this. I already have it download, so we're going to go ahead and bring it up here real quick. Let me go back here, and we are going to do this, and we're going to reopen up that folder that I have. Okay, so the dumpster fire is just an archive of a Linux machine, right? So that's all it is. It's a bunch of files on here, right? Obviously, some of the first things we can do real quick is we can probably go through like, let's see here, Etsy, where some of the main system files are, and we can open up something like pastwd. So let's edit that with Notepad, and we see that there's root, and then there's challenge. So these are the two directories that I'm probably going to pay attention to, is home/challenge and root, right? So those are available for us to play around with. We can also open up shadow, but we see here that root is disabled for login, and then so is challenge. Challenge has an exclamation point. This means this user can't be logged into. So even if we knew what the password was, it's kind of useless to us right now. So, and that's probably not the point of the challenge anyways. So we're going to ignore this, except for the fact that we now have the directories of both these users. So let's go back here. And the first one I'm going to go into is root, and there is nothing. And I do show hidden items here, and there's nothing. Just bash RC and profile, and they're not even that big. These are mostly default profiles. Like we could technically open this up and try to prove that it's just your normal everyday run-of-the-mill bash RC for root. All right, let's go into home then. And so here's challenge, and oh, lo and behold, there's a .mozilla. That is app data information for Firefox. So this is probably the most important information that we need to find. So let's go in here, and we have a complete copy of the entire information for this user utilizing Firefox. So what are we trying to find here? Well, let's go back to here. So we could technically, and I have a tool, let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's see, browser. So there's something called Browsing History View. This is from Nearsoft. I do highly recommend Nearsoft tools if you want to kind of utilize some pretty good tools that do work on Windows. And we could go here to advanced options, and we can set, as I did here, the history and stuff, and it will load it, right? And we see that there's a visit to something called localhost 31337. So we could try to recover the session. It's not going to work because this location doesn't exist on my system. Even if I wanted to host it, it's not going to be the same information. So what's good is to kind of copy this down, right? So we know it went to localhost 31337. So we know that was a browsed website. So that's as much as we can get out of that. The next step is we need to kind of pay attention to the challenge request, which is looking for passwords, right? So that's a key indicator, like cool passwords or anything. So let's see if we can find anything with authentication information. So as I look down here, there's a key for DB, which could be something. And then there's this file here, pkcs11.txt, right? This caught my attention because this is a library used by Mozilla to kind of try to encrypt passwords for you if they're stored in the browser. So this could mean that there are passwords stored in the browser, or at least in this browsing session somewhere, and we just got to find them, right? So let's take a look at, we're going to go into session store backups. Here we go. So there's a couple things that Firefox will do, and most browsers kind of do this in some form or fashion, is you will have, like, let's say if your browser crashes, for example, right? And this happens often, especially if, like, for some reason Windows decides to update and restart your system for you, even though you have open tabs open. You will have a previous file that Firefox will look into and try to recover it. Same thing with the recovery ones, right? So this is all stored sessions, usually stored if Firefox can't save a saved session anywhere. And we can look for that, right? So we can do session store and see if we could find it anywhere, or like a session file. And I don't see that anywhere. There's checkpoints, and we could open this up, but it's nothing, right? It's just a checkpoint. So let's close that out. But I don't see a current session anywhere at all. All right, so let's do this real quick just in case. There's a session state. Where was that? So we did find it. Session states. Data reporting. Okay, let's go ahead and open that up and see what that says. My thing's doing a little funky here. That doesn't look like anything that we can use, so I'm just going to close that real quick. But for session stuff, there's a ping. There's just that file. So we're going to go back in here, and we're going to open up one of these LZ4 files. Now, it is technically in JSON format, however, it's only technically readable by the browser. So some of this is going to be gunk. Like, we're not going to be able to read it, right? So let's go over here, and we loaded up recovery, and lo and behold, we see that the URL it was visiting was localhost 31337. All right, so we have an inherits base64, but what we were really looking for is something like passwords. And let's see if I can find that. So there's nothing in here with passwords. So let's go back and open up the previous. See if we can find something here. It's nothing. This is for the about page for Mozilla. Let's try upgrade. Same concept. It's the same thing, Mozilla. And let's try the last recovery. And I don't see anything with passwords on it. Nothing. So there's nothing in these recoveries, unfortunately. So we're going to go and try to look into something like data reporting. Let's go ahead and open up this aborted ping because it's pretty big. Let's see here. There's a lot of data in here, but let's just try to narrow it down to just password. Nothing. Okay. All right. So at this point in time, we can't find anything super easy in here. We could switch over to Linux to do a search, which actually should be probably one of the primary things we should do. But there's still more LZ4 files that I kind of want to look at. So let's open up this real quick. Let's see here. This is the main one for this date. And we're going to bring this over here real quick. And we're going to do a search for pass. Nothing. Alrighty. So let's close that out. Let's do all four and see if we can find something that is useful. Nothing. Okay. Let's open up this. Fine. Nothing. And then new profile. Alright, let's try one more. There's a reference to password. There's a reference to password right there. Another reference, another reference. I think there's only two. Yeah. Okay. So there's only two references. We got a little close, but there's nothing stored in these JSON files that we can really determine where they are. So I'm going to switch over to Linux real quick, and let me bring that up. And we're going to load it here. Just bear with me as I switch directories. Alright, so we have the files here on my Linux system. So we're going to go ahead and do an ls-la. The directory that we're most concerned about, real quick, let me actually go back to that because I didn't mean to do that. We're actually going to stay in home/challenge because that's probably where the files are, right? So we need to find something with a password in it, right? So we're going to use our friendly grep, right? So we're going to do grep-rni, and I'm going to do pass that, and then let it run. Oop. There we go. Okay. Because there's no files in there, so I didn't need the star. All right. That's a lot of stuff. So let's push this through less. Right. Okay. Right at the top here, there is an encrypted password. Where is this file? So it is in a JSON file, right? In logins.json, which is something I should look at because that's in the baseline directory. So let's bring that back up on Windows side here real quick. Nope, not that folder. I think it should be this folder, yeah. Okay. So in the main folder, there's a logins.json. So I should have looked at this file. I didn't. Let's edit that with Notepad real quick. And oh, lo and behold, it's that local host, and it has this encrypted username and this encrypted password. So we could, and which I will do, I'm going to decrypt this from base64 because it's obviously base64, right? It's always base64. So let's go here, and oh, that's not human readable at all, right? Interesting. We could do magic, right? Nothing of interest could be detected. So this could be bad news. It could be encrypted. We don't know what this is doing. So let's try to decode the password right here, because the password is what we're most sought out for, because that's what the hints in the challenge was requesting for us to find. Let me bring up this. Yep. All right, magic. It says it's base 64, so let's put base 64 on there. Same concept. Okay, so these definitely could be encrypted. As we can see that they share the same starting pattern here for their encryption, which is interesting. Okay, so now you might be thinking, we have the password. Now what? Like, how are we supposed to decrypt what this is, right? Well, if we go back to, and don't worry about that. It's not even supposed to be up right now. Look at my studying notes. Let's see here. Here we go. If you remember, we have this text file here, right? So pkcs11.txt. This should give you a hint, as stated previously, that it's probably utilizing this to encrypt the password. So we're going to have to decrypt it somehow, right? This is using an internal PKS module for encryption for Mozilla Firefox. That means the library to use for encryption is on the system itself. So that's kind of a vulnerable system, because if you're using an internal system, that's probably the same internal system across many, many different operating systems. That means we can use something to decrypt it. On your Linux system, you could do this on your own. You could download a program that allows you to decrypt the password. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do a quick clear real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and find this real quick before I show it to you. Just bear with me real quick. Should be this one. All right. All right. So on my screen, you'll see that I'm in a directory on my desktop called Firefox Decrypt-main, right? So this is searchable, right? So let's bring this up real quick, so that way I can show you guys, right? All right. So Firefox Decrypt is a tool to extract passwords from profiles of Mozilla Fire/Waterfox, Thunderbird, SeaMonkey, and derivatives. It is used to recover passwords from a profile protected by a master password as long as the latter is known. If a profile is not protected by master passwords, passwords are displayed without prompt. Okay, so key thing here is that it's telling you that it can decrypt it as long as you provide a master password. You might ask, oh, we don't have a master password, right? Like, we don't know what it is. Well, most browsers don't have, like, most people don't set master passwords for their browser. So if it's storing passwords in the browser and you don't use a master password, this doesn't require it. So what I did is I did clone this from this GitHub page, and I have it here, right? So if we do an lsslA, we have a Python script that we can use, right? So let's go ahead and see if we can use it. We're going to do /Firefox decrypt.py. So it's detecting my profiles because it's probably automatically set to find my app data. But what we got to do is we actually got to point it to the right folder. So we're going to go ahead and quit out of there real quick. And we're going to see what the syntax is because I haven't memorized it yet. All right, here we go. So folder containing profiles ini. So we have to just give it a directory. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we're going to do, we have it in the home directory. Let's do, or maybe we can do this. No, we got to go back up one. There we go. We're going to do home, challenge, Mozilla, Firefox, and then this default release. So this is the profile name is that random character string dot default release. So we're just going to hit enter here, right? And boom. So it didn't find an INI, but it did find our flag for us. So it deciphered it without any issues. So username was flag, password was flag this, which makes sense because if we go back here to our browser, or actually let's go back to our notepad here, you see the first portions here are all the same. Now it's because the username and password share flag as the first part, so makes sense, right? But there's your flag. Bring it back up here real quick. That's what you technically could use. It's one of a couple tools you could use to decrypt passwords. You don't need to use this specific tool. In fact, there's possibilities you can decrypt it without using this tool. But regardless, you did have to decrypt the encrypted password to get the flag and submit it. So that was dumpster fire, which technically is a dumpster fire. It can be. You can get lost real quickly browsing through metadata for a browser. So, but pretty fun in my opinion. So let's go back to our browser here. So we're done with dumpster fire. Let's go back to which ones we're going to host here. All right. So last but not least, we're going to go over Wimble, which is kind of one of the brand new challenges that dropped for us, but it's pretty fun, pretty interesting to do. So let's go through it together. It says, Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. Regina George, Mean Girls. Funny, right? Might be a reference to something, might not be. So let's go ahead and just start this challenge. It does require you to download a 7-zip folder, so let me do some cleanups here real quick. You're going to look at my beautiful face while I get prepared. Let's take a look here. See? All right, fetch. Wimble. Okay. We're going to do some cleanups. All right. Now, with this downloaded file, and we're going to take a look here. 1 second. Just getting rid of some stuff that we don't need anymore. All right. So we have this 7-zip file here, right? Let me show it to you here real quick. Okay, so we have 7-zip, right? Wimble.7zip. So let's go ahead and open it up on archive, and we have this file called fetch, right? So cool, right? Interesting. Let's stick it out here real quick. So it's a 6 kilobyte file. Close this out. And at that point, we're pretty much done with Wimble. Let's take a look at what this file could be, and it's data. So it's definitely a file, and specifically MS-Wim. So this stands for Microsoft Wim, or Windows Image File. All right. So this is not a simple file you can just process and view. And yes, you technically should probably do this through Windows, because Windows has the proper tools for this. So that's what we're going to do. Is we're actually going to use DISM, and we'll bring up, where is it? Here it is. Yeah, so there's a bunch of articles you can use. We're going to go ahead and do some of this information here. And we're going to try to get the information from this Wim file. So let's go ahead and launch a PowerShell prompt here. There it is. Okay. All right, so we have PowerShell here. Oops, 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 oops. There we go. All right. Just make sure it can see it. It sees it. So let's do DISM, right? Oh, it requires elevator permissions. All right, well, let's do that real quick, because security schmearity, right? Okay. Stand by. Now we got to get back to my downloads folders. All right, so now we have an elevated PowerShell, so we should be able to run DISM. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so we have tons and tons of options with DISM to mess around with a Windows image file. So let's kind of follow the process here, right? So we're going to get some info on what this file is. So let's try to run it real quick. So dism/get wim, wim info. Give me 1 second real quick. Let's do fetch. Let's see if that works. And it does. So it does recognize it as a Wim, has one index. It tells us the size. It's 7 megabytes, I think. So not very big, but it does recognize it at least, right? So how do we look into this file? Well, since it's an image file, we actually need to mount it. So let's take a look at this real quick and see how we can mount it. So let's do a dism here. Do another command. And do a mount -wim. And then we're going to do select the Wim file. Fetch. We're not going to worry about the index. Well, let's do an index. We'll do index 1 because there's only one index. And then we're going to do a mount directory, right? So let's try to see if we can provide it with this specific directory, and we're going to do mount directory in parentheses c/users, my name, downloads, new, let's do new folder. It goes to, yeah. Oh. That is not empty. That is not supported. Oh, okay. So it wants a new directory. So let's do that. Let's do make directory new. There we go. All right. And then we'll do a /new. Right. Perfect. Okay. So it mounted it. All right. So now we have a mounted image. Let's open up downloads here real quick. New folder 2, new. I don't have permission to access this file, whatever. All right, cool. So we have access to it because I'm the administrator of the system. So now we have a mounted image, and we see that there's a ton of PF files here, right? We even have fetch zipped up into here as well. So it's a nice little pretty image file for us with a bunch of PF information, right? So now you might be asking, well, what do we do now? Well, we're gonna try to figure out what's in these PF files. More likely the flag is in here somewhere, right? We just got to figure out which one it is. There's a couple of programs you could use to browse PF files, like FTK Imager, for example. So you could technically utilize that. I'm using a different tool from Eric Zimmerman called PECmd. He has a GitHub here with it. In fact, you can download all their tools, his tools. I highly recommend them. But this specific one allows you to browse prefetch files, and that should give you an example too of like the name of the file is fetch. So kind of a hint of what you're using to kind of navigate this, right? Prefetch files. So let's kind of take a look at this. I'm checking on the time here real quick to make sure that we finish this up pretty quickly. So I've already downloaded this. It should already be here. Let's go ahead and make sure I can run it. Let me make sure it's in a accessible location. Is it in here? No. It's not there either. Just bear with me real quick. That needs to go. That also needs to go. Okay. All right. Let's do stand by for some technical difficulties. Okay. So I accidentally deleted all of the Zimmerman tools. So we're going to go ahead and re-download them. And as you can see, sorry for the pause a moment there. So we're downloading all the files. Technically, we only need PECmd, but I'm pretty lazy, so I just ran the script that comes with it. I'm gonna wait for this to finish up here real quick. Cool. All right, so now we have this folder called net6, which is what he named it as. So we're going to go ahead and navigate into it, and we're going to call on PECmd. So now it tells us the same stuff that's on the screen here, how to kind of navigate through this. So we're going to go ahead and utilize, and it tells us either F or D for the switch, right? So -F for a file to process, you can do this one at a time, or D for a directory. And since there are so many PF files, prefetch files in here, we're going to do a directory. So let's go ahead and do -D, and then we're going to go ahead and say bump up 1 from net6 into new, because that's where all the prefetch files is, and we're going to go ahead and hit enter and see what happens. Right? Bam. Whoa. So what is this doing? Well, it's analyzing every prefetch file, because a prefetch file is pretty much a zip file, more or less, with a bunch of pre-configured files inside of it. And we can see here, because we can look at it through here. Let me bring up, where is it? So this is volume. I think the numbers help. So let's scroll up here real quick. All right. So, and this does this each time. So see, it processed a PF file, right? And it's processing what it is. It gives you all the metadata off of it, right? It tells you the volume information, the name of it, serial number, and then it tells you the directories and files inside of it, right? So these prefetch files are exactly what it says. They prefetch all this data. In this case, for Windows imaging, it's typically used for like creating operating systems and deploying them as fast as possible. So that's what these prefetch files are, right? This could be a lot, because if we scroll all the way back up, there's a ton of information, right? How are we going to navigate through all this data? Well, there's a couple more options. If you remember here on the examples, it says right here, we can tell it a directory, so CSV, directory to save CSV results to, and we can also save it as a CSV file and give it a name. We can even do JSON, but we're going to do CSV because CSV is a little bit easier to navigate, and I'll show you why. So we're going to do -D. Before we do anything else, we're going to also do -CSV, and we're going to go ahead and say this directory. So let's do we're going to go back into here real quick, and we're going to create a folder called CSV. All right, this should work. Keyword should work. /CSV -CSVF, and we can name it whatever. So I'm just going to name it foo.csv. All right, now this should work. Let's see what's happening. Going. Perfect. All right, so in that new folder I created, it gave us two files. It gave us a timeline, and it gave us a breakdown of basically what it showed into the PowerShell screen. So let's go ahead and open up the timeline with Excel, because Excel is pretty good at navigating through this stuff. And we see that it's just processing all these files, right? And it gives us a time frame, right? So we could go in here and we can go all the way to the top, and we can do kind of a navigation of a flag, right? Let's do that real quick, right? It's not finding anything with flag, so it's probably not in here. So let's just close this out. No, we don't want to save it. Let's open up food. Now this is a almost 2.5 megabyte, or yeah, megabyte file. So let's go ahead and open this up. It's going to ask us to do some conversions. I'm not going to convert anything. We're going to try to keep it as raw as possible. So there's a lot of parsed information here, right? So we could start expanding all this stuff, right? See the version, there's the source access, there's volume information, right? So we could try to manually look through this. I don't know exactly how many lines there are. Looks like there's a lot of lines, but let's see, if we can do a quick search real quick for flag. Oops, I don't know how to spell flag. All right, find all. And it did find something with flag in it, which is interesting. And it's in this data right here. So I'm going to hit Control A, Control C, and we're going to paste it into here. And get rid of that because we don't need that real quick. Right? So it copied this entire line, which is a lot of data, right? All right. So flag's probably in here somewhere. We just got to find it. So again, what I will do is I will do a flag search, right? And there it is, right there, right in the smack dab, kind of middle, yeah. So it says volume information, and obviously this doesn't belong, and that's our flag. So pretty cool. Requires some in-depth analysis of prefetch files, which can be annoying depending on who you ask, but all in all, pretty good challenge here, and we pretty much covered these four. A little over an hour. I do apologize for the timing on that, but hopefully you guys have a little bit more good information about how to solve some of these challenges. Like I stated before, next video is, I promise, will be traffic. I just gotta wait for all the things to set up, because I know there's been some questions about how to use Rita or how to install Rita. So we'll definitely go over that and some tricks on that. And then we also have Xerion, which will be done pretty soon, and then followed with that with the lulz challenges, and then any other challenges starting on the 11th. So don't expect all the videos to be done today on the 10th. They're probably going to be spread out probably tomorrow and Thursday. So yeah, just won't be too long before all the videos are up. And then as a quick reminder, if you're watching this before the 31st, just remember they're not supposed to be released to anybody else except for the team, so that way we don't get disqualified on our standings. So we'll go back over here to kind of take a look at the rankings real quick, and we'll just kind of refresh this real quick. Yeah, all right, so we're at 1150 points with all challenges solved. Pretty good so far. Obviously not the tippy top of the top 10 teams, because we like to take our time, so it's not a big problem. So other than that, I will see you guys on the next video.